April 27th. You want to call the roll?
Ms. Saleh, Mr. Lechleiter,
Here.
Mr. Reiner,
Here.
Mayor Keenan,
Here.
Mr. Nancy Zerker,
Here.
Mr. Peterson, Vice Mayor Gerber.
Thank you. John, you want to lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome everybody. We have a couple special recognition proclamations here this evening. We have Building Safety Month. It's going to be accepted by Jeff Tyler, our Chief Building Official. So Jeff, if you'd like to come forward. Are you here? There you are. Okay, this proclamation, and I'm on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the City of Dublin's continuing efforts to address the critical issues of safety, energy efficiency, and sustainability in the built environment that affect our citizens, both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster, give us confidence that our structures are safe and sound. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council and International Code Council Foundation to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown guardians of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of safe, efficient, and livable buildings. And whereas these guardians, who are dedicated members of the International Code Council, develop and implement the highest quality codes to protect Americans in the buildings where we live, learn, work, worship, play, and whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, Americans are asked to consider projects to improve building safety and sustainability at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, I, Michael H. Keenan, Mayor of the City of Dublin, Ohio, on behalf of Dublin City Council, do hereby proclaim May 2015 as Building Safety Month in the City of Dublin, acknowledging the dedication and service of local code officials to our community and thanking them for their vigilance in ensuring the safety and well-being of our citizens. Congratulations. Thank you.
Do I get time on here? I'm teasing. I'd like to thank City Council the Mayor and City Council for your continued support of not only the Division of Building Standards, but also the Planning Division as well, and our efforts to enforce both building codes and property maintenance codes. I would also be remiss if I didn't also thank our partners in this, the Washington Township Fire Department and the Franklin County Public Health Department. So thank you very much. And we will not be having our construction forum like we normally have in May. We're going to move that to October. It just the schedules didn't work out this year for a May time frame. But we'll move that to October, and we'll let you know when we have that. And it's becoming an event that really is catching on with the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. And we also have, it's my privilege, and I know City Council as well, to recognize Jim Link. If you come forward, Jim, with Dublin Youth Athletics Executive Director. Your name is inextricably linked.
Pardon me?
Your name is greatly linked to DYA. Thank you for the bad pun there. In any event, I will present this proclamation to you. Whereas Jim Link, Director of Dublin Youth Athletics, will retire on April 30th, 2015, following 22 years of exceptional leadership, DYA is a community recreation and travel sports organization providing programs for over 3,300 youth participants each year in Dublin, Ohio. Under his leadership, DYA programs have been successful due to joint efforts by parent volunteers, including over 500 parent volunteer coaches, the City of Dublin Recreation Services, City of Dublin Parks and Open Space Division, and the Dublin City Schools. And whereas Jim Link and his family established residency in Dublin in 1981 and have remained actively involved in coaching a variety of youth sports with Dublin City Schools and community organizations over the past 34 years, and whereas his coaching career includes Dublin Soccer League coach 1982 to 1987, Grizel Middle School's basketball coach 1997 to 1999, Grizel Middle School baseball coach 1999, Bishop Watterson High School girls basketball coach 2001 to 2004, Jerome High School girls basketball coach 2004 to 2007, and Sells Middle School basketball coach 2008 to present. What did you do with all your time?
Keep reading.
And whereas in addition to his leadership of the DYA organization, his DYA volunteer coaching career includes DYA recreational baseball, softball, and basketball 1983 to 1995, including 18 all-star teams, DYA girls travel basketball 1990 to 2009, DYA boys travel basketball 1989 to 2002, DYA boys travel baseball 1990 to 1991. And whereas since 1993, under Jim Link's leadership, DYA introduced several additional youth sports, including golf, my favorite, 1991, softball, 1996, lacrosse, 1999, and selected softball, 1998, and volleyball, 2001. And whereas during his 22-year tenure, the DYA has provided quality recreational and travel programs for an estimated 50,000 individual youth participants and thousands of families throughout the Dublin community. Now, therefore, I, Michael H. Keenan, Mayor of the City of Dublin, on behalf of Dublin City Council, do hereby proclaim Thursday, April 30th, 2015, as Jim Link Day in the City of Dublin in recognition of his contributions and dedication to the youth sports and Dublin community, and extend to Jim and his family our sincere thanks and best wishes for future happiness and success. Congratulations. Yay. Now, I know most of us, and probably most of our council members, have had children through those programs. I know I have, and we certainly all appreciate that. And gosh, 50,000 individual youth participants, that's
I don't know if
amazing.
you with that number, but that's unbelievable.
Well, we're from the government. We have numbers. Thank you.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council, for the recognition. I certainly am humbled by your taking time out of your busy schedules to say thank you, and I do appreciate that. In terms of saying thank you, a number of people that have made DYA what it is, and no one individual can be anything more than a part of a team when it comes to that. I thank the council, the past councils, for their support in terms of building facility, in terms of providing sustained programs so that we can continue to develop facilities for our community and for our kids. They're the finest anywhere. At least that's what people who come and visit us tell us, that they're the finest that they play on. I've had the opportunity to work with a number of people from the school administration, the school boards, thousands of coaches, hundreds of volunteers have served on our board of directors. I would be remiss if I didn't recognize some of the people out here that I've grown up with: Fred, Fritz, Matt. They've been phenomenal in supporting the programs as we've gone forward. Last but not least, I'd like to thank my family, my wife in particular, who's allowed me to do all the things. And nobody can do that unless you have the support of a spouse who says, go do those things, get out of the house. That's, because I know you love to do them. My daughter, Kelly, who works for the Parks Department now, or the Recreation Department now, and my son Jim has been a part of the development along the way as well. So those people have been great. Probably the best thing that happens here is it is my birthday. We're going out to dinner, so I'm going to excuse myself. And thank you very much for my birthday gift here this evening. Thank you.
Well, he's truly been a treasure and a resource for our community, and we thank you again. Have a great dinner and happy birthday. Okay, that will bring us to our portion of citizen comments. And do we have anybody signed up? Right here.
Mr. Mauer is the first one on your agenda.
Mr. Mauer, welcome.
Do you have something up there for me? No proclamation? Okay.
Not yet, but we're working on it.
Well, this is unbelievable, Your Honor, and members of council and management. This is unbelievable here. I am at this podium and have, out of the generosity of spirit, my spirit, I don't have anything to say. And I give you in silence, a lot of silence, except one thing. I would like to compliment and applaud the horticultural section of the city for defying the winter and the cold weather with gorgeous implanting of breathtaking flowers all around the city. So that I hope makes up for some of the nothings I've done up here. It's a marvelous job. You can't, it's dangerous, you know. I try to make that roundabout up at my place, and I look at the flowers instead of driving the car.
Keep an eye on them, Mr. Mauer. Thank you. We appreciate those kind comments. We have Mr. Swackhammer. Welcome. If you'd state your name and address for the record.
Gary Swackhammer, 76 Iowa Street, Powell, Ohio. These are kind of tough acts to follow here. I'm here tonight. My family's been here around 150 years. I was born in 1949, just outside of a little farm, what's now left of Jerome. I'm a 67 graduate from Dublin High School, so I've seen a lot of changes in Dublin over my lifetime. The reason I came tonight, and I apologize, we didn't know that the CODA was on the agenda, so we signed up for the things that weren't on the agenda. But I've been writing CODA for 27 years, and a lot of us have concerns at this time because we thought we was going to the Bright Road and Emerald Parkway. And we started reading some of the things that came out in regards to, Dublin residents don't ride, it's mostly Columbus, and, they don't want that kind of thing in their neighborhood and things along those lines. It's kind of concerning because this bus that I take, the 58 Dublin Express, it takes in around 100 to 120 people a day, and the majority of those people that ride with me are Dublin residents and taxpayers and voters. So it was strange when I started reading some of those things that the Dublin people don't actually use the bus. We have a bus parking right now on Dale, and we've never had any incidents with break-ins or damage to our cars or anything like this. So we're very concerned about where we're going to be placed if we're not going to be placed in some in-kind match with what we have now, either being not centrally located, such as 161 in Solomon, which we've heard. We've also heard over on Metro, which is not convenient for a lot of us. We know that CODA wants to put one over by the hospital. That's way out of line for a majority of us that ride this one. We just want something that's similar to what we have now. If we go to a shopping center, we run the risk of people breaking into our cars, hitting our cars while we're at work. And we're not used to that kind of thing. So we just want to express that, we know negotiations are still going on, but we're hoping that something could come to fruition because a lot of people are concerned about their livelihood and what's going to transpire of how they take the CODA bus in. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. We appreciate the input. Adriana, I'm going to say Golumbanu. Very good. Welcome. State your name and address for the record, please.
It's 5394 Wine Tavern in Dublin.
Thank you.
So the issue is the same. I'm a Dublin resident, and I've been taking the CODA bus for 5 years now. I work downtown for the state of Ohio, Department of Education. And what Gary said is absolutely true. So we are all concerned about this, and we encourage more people to come to this meeting, but apparently it's just us. And there are about probably more than 150 people, Dublin residents, who ride this bus. So we are concerned about the next location of the park and ride. So the Bright Road, Emerald Parkway, as far as I know, everybody is okay with that, even if it's not, in that near intersection, but if it's along Emerald Parkway, between Emerald Parkway and the highway, that's fine too. So we just want you to know that we do want to have a location that's similar to the one we have now, which is safe and it's convenient for a lot of people.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input as well.
Could I just
please.
ask a question of Dana? These are numbers quite different than the ones we'd been hearing from CODA. So I'm wondering, I know we're not, we're changing the dialogue a little bit here with CODA, but in that conversation, I think it would be helpful if we could have accurate numbers of not only how many people ride the bus, which is obviously critical, but also, where those riders are coming from. Thank you.
We'll do that.
Okay, thank you. We're at the consent agenda. Does any council member have any item they'd like to remove? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the actions for the 7 items listed on the consent
So
agenda?
moved.
Thank you. Ann?
Ms. Saleh? Yes. Mr. Lechleiter?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mayor Keenan?
Yes.
Ms. Janice Zerker?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Vice Mayor Gerber?
Yes.
And on ordinance 415 and 1315, Dana, would you like to address those for us?
Sure, and relative to CODAs, as you know, the City of Dublin is the applicant regarding both the rezoning and advance the ordinance. That would be ordinance 0415 and advanced ordinance 1315 relative to the agreement with CODA. As applicant, I'm removing these from the agenda, or removing the application for these as the applicant. And I just want to emphasize that we continue to work with CODA to find interim solutions relative to the Dale Drive Park and Ride, and we are proposing to work with them, obviously, for the long run, for long-term solutions relative to park and rides in Dublin and overall transit service in Dublin. So I'm hopeful that we can continue to get down that road. We have a very active dialogue going on with them. I appreciate your understanding, and there's no council action required tonight. And I did try to get as much contact out as I could with folks that I had contact information for relative to tonight. So I appreciate that you did come out.
Well, to be clear, while we work with CODA, it's really CODA's choices, not ours. In terms
Correct.
of- yes. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go to second readings, ordinance 27-15.
Rezoning approximately 3.5 plus or minus acres located at the east side of Teller Ridge Drive between Teller Drive and Rush Street from BSD Public District to BSD Residential District.
Thank you, Ms. Roush.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. There are no changes to this from the first reading, and the Planning Commission recommendation to council was approval.
Very good. Any questions, council? Hearing none, Ann?
Ms. Janice Zerker? Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Lechleiter?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Vice Mayor Gerber?
Yes.
Mayor Keenan?
Yes.
Ms. Saleh?
Yes.
And 28-15.
Authorizing the city manager to execute necessary conveyance documents to acquire 0.049 acre more or less permanent easement, 0.023 acre more or less temporary easement from Noman I. Malik and Josephine Samina Malik for the property located at 8640 Highland Quarry Road for construction of a shared use path connection.
Thank you. Mr. Hammersmith?
Quite simply, this is number 4 of 6 acquisitions necessary for the Highland Croy shared use path. Before you this evening is acquisition from the Maliks located at 8640 Highland Croy Road. We have come to an agreement at the appraised value of $3,550. Staff recommends approval of this item this evening.
Thank you. Any council questions?
Paul, ultimately, this is going to connect Jerome High School area with
Tartan West.
Tartan West. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Very good. Mr. Maurer, I see you've signed up for this. 28-15.
Well, not much at all, nothing probably. But a shared use path, that's a new phrase for what used to be the bike path.
Yes,
And
semantics.
this is not a complaint, but the shared use reminded me that sometimes I see Dublin utility cars on the path. They're, of course, there for maintenance and stuff, right? Yeah, okay, no problem.
Yep, so it truly is a shared use. Okay. Any further discussion? Ann?
Ms. Knizy Zerker?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Mayor Keenan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gerber?
Yes.
Ms. Salee? Mr. Lucklider?
Yes. Thank you. Ordinance 30-15.
Amending the organizational structure of the City of Dublin and declaring an emergency.
Dina?
Need an introduction.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll introduce it.
Thank you, Rick. Dina?
Good evening, members of council. Thank you. I'd like to address both ordinances 3015 and 3115, if I may, since they're companion ordinances. I've provided a memo in your packet regarding these ordinances, but I'd like to highlight a few key points. As we discussed when I entered into the position of city manager, the city's organizational structure is in need of further review. Council's provided some insight. I've reviewed past studies relative to the city's organizational structure, spoken one-on-one with the entire staff, leadership team, researched organizational structures with many other cities, and relied on my own nearly 27 years of experience with the city. And as a result, I'm presenting to you an organizational structure that I think will serve the city well into the future. As I reference in my memo, the more recent Novak study emphasizes the use of a more traditional department head structure, which is also consistent with our own city charter. As council knows, Article 6 of the revised Charter of the City of Dublin, Ohio, governs the formation, use, and authorities relative to the city's departments and personnel systems. My recommendation before you is to reinforce the departmental structure and to better align talent and skill sets than they are currently. The following are highlights that I'd like to just kind of run down, if you don't mind, relative to the suggested changes in addition to the standing departments of both law and finance that are already found in and designated by the charter. First, the assistant city manager would no longer dual hat as an assistant city manager and department head. The assistant city manager will act in my absence and more closely work with me on strategic projects within the city manager's office, provide more direct support to city council, and assist with external engagements. The Division of Court Services will continue to report to the assistant city manager. I propose to create a new Department of Parks and Recreation. This department will be comprised of the divisions of Recreation Services, Parks Operations, Events, and Volunteer Services. The landscape architect will report to the new Director of Parks and Recreation. Not that it's his fault, but it is his fault. As you know, Fred Hahn's going to retire later this year, and I'm not proposing to reorganize the city because of Fred, but it does cause me to take a look at this. His position will essentially become the bill payer, if you will, for the new Director of Parks and Recreation. As you'll see, and as you've seen in the memo, I look to promote Matt Ehrman into the new department director role. The position of Director of Parks and Recreation Services will be backfilled by an internal competitive process. Also, as you'll see in my memo, I propose to reclassify certain positions as a result of the reorganization relative to what we now call Parks and Open Space, which would become Parks Operations. We will create a new Department of Public Works. This department will consist of the divisions of Streets and Utilities, Engineering, Facilities, and Fleet. Megan O'Callahan will continue to serve as the director with the title of Director of Public Works. Police will be given a department status with the reclassification of the Chief of Police, Lieutenants, and Technical Services Bureau Commander. There have been pay compression issues which have been previously under study, and this will help resolve those as well. This also reflects a change previously approved by City Council, and that's the reclassification of the Director of Information Technology to a department head level status. The Department of Development will remain the same as it is today. There are no net new positions as a result of this new structure, except for the change to the IT director pay classification. These changes and corresponding pay range reclassifications are essentially a wash in cost, as pointed out in the memo. There are two changes in the ordinance that will be signed by the mayor if you pass it tonight, which will actually have a change compared to what you have before you. Ann may have placed that at your desk. First is the operations administrator position in the ordinance should be a 4.2 rather than a 4.1. I had that right in the memo, but not in the ordinance. And then the director of park operations should be a 3.2 pay grade rather than a 3.1. I'm asking for emergency passage tonight, as I feel a transition to a new organizational structure certainly is in the best interest of the community relative to the health, safety, and welfare. It's not that we have a current crisis by any stretch, but transitioning to a new structure in a timely fashion and ensuring the transfer of knowledge is critical to our overall effectiveness going forward. So I recommend passage of both ordinance 3015 and 3115 as an emergency. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Very good. Council, questions?
Dana, the landscape architect is now assigned to Parks and Recreation, is that true?
That's correct. It's not called out on the chart because it's an individual function, but it would report directly to the Director of Parks and Recreation.
And then, is there any kind of influence in the planning department where that particular skill would be helpful? Do we have somebody over there that's also in that skill set?
Sure. Our planning division leans to Laura Ball on many occasions, as well as Paula Chope on some of that advice and counsel, but they also have consulting services that help them with landscape architect.
Yeah, I would think every plan coming in probably should be reviewed by a professional, so I'm just wondering if we have a hole there in the development department for that specific problem.
Typically, we recruit in our planners some background in landscape architecture background, but whenever we do have that hole, we'll get that through contractual service.
Yeah,
Joanne
and it's
Shelley.
really important, I think.
I think Joanne has some of that background.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody
Joanne
else?
Shelley is a
Shelley has that
registered
background.
landscape architect in the planning department.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move to be dispensed with public hearing and treat as an emergency.
You want to treat these together or separately?
They just both need to be
I
passed
know,
as
but
an
you want
emergency.
you want separate motions on them?
We just
Okay,
need
so
to
there's
read
a
the second
motion
one.
to treat as an emergency? Is there a second? Thank you.
Ms. Saleh? Mayor Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Nizzi Zerker?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gerber?
Yes,
Mr. Lucklider?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
And on the motion?
Mr. Nizzi Zerker?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Mr. Lucklider?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gerber?
yes,
Ms. Saleh? Mayor Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Okay, and on 3115?
Amending Section 2, Wage and Salary Structure Administration of Ordinance Number 7306 and declaring an emergency.
yes. I'll introduce it and also make a motion to dispense with public hearing and treat as an emergency.
Second? Thank you. Ann?
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mayor Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Mr. Nizzi Zerker?
Yes.
Ms. Saleh? Vice Mayor Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Lucklider?
Yes.
On the ordinance?
Ms. Saleh? Mr. Lucklider?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mayor Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Mr. Nizzi Zerker?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Gerber?
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Ordinance 32-15.
Authorizing appropriation of a 5.120 acre more or less fee simple right-of-way of which 1.308 acres are located within present road occupied and a 0.387 acre more or less temporary easement from BPACQ LLC and Tim Hortons as lessee of the property for the property located at 6400 Riverside Drive for construction of a roundabout at the intersection of State Route 161 and Riverside Drive and relocation of Riverside Drive to the east.
I'll introduce it.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Good evening. You'll recall that council passed a resolution of intent to appropriate this property at the April 13th meeting. The present ordinance authorizes the filing of the appropriation action, so that's the next step in the process. As you know, we're in negotiations with Tim Hortons, and we are optimistic that we'll come to a resolution of the matter. So with that, we are recommending approval of ordinance 32-15 by emergency at the second hearing on May 4th.
Very good. Any council questions? Hearing none, there'll be a second reading, public hearing, May 4th council meeting. So we're all set.
Thank you.
Okay. Ordinance 33-15.
Implementing sections 3735.65 through 3735.70 of the Ohio Revised Code, establishing and describing the boundaries of the Bridge Street District Community Reinvestment Area, designating a housing officer to administer the program, creating a Community Reinvestment Area Housing Council, and declaring an emergency.
Very good. Ms. Muma?
I'll introduce it.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of council. On April 13th at the council meeting, I presented an overview of what is a CRA. So for the purposes of this evening, I'm not going to revisit that, but I would like to point out for any guests watching this evening, either at home or from the audience, that we are proud to bring out our first Bridge Street brief, which speaks to what a CRA is. So we have copies of that for City Council, and it's also available on the city's website. But this evening, in front of you is considering first reading on ordinance 3315, which in essence establishes the Bridge Street District CRA, or Community Reinvestment Area. The boundaries of the proposed CRA are shown on the map in front of you. Approval of this ordinance would do the following. It would adopt a housing survey, which was attached to the ordinance for your review, and that housing survey identified at least 2 residential properties that are experiencing disinvestment throughout the district. It would also define the boundaries of the CRA, as I just articulated a moment ago. It would also define the incentive that can be provided within the boundaries of the CRA. Staff is recommending up to a 100% real property tax exemption for a period of time not to exceed 50 years for the construction of new commercial or industrial facilities. For the purposes of this CRA, structures used in whole or in part for residential purposes and are composed of 3 or more residential units shall be classified as commercial structures. This ordinance also creates a Bridge Street District CRA Housing Council, which the appointees are set forth pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, and that includes 2 mayoral appointments, 2 city council appointments, and 1 planning commission appointment. There is no urgency in appointing these members, as we have no agreements under the CRA at this point in time. However, it would need to be something that is accomplished at some point in the future. This ordinance does not provide any real property tax exemption to property owners within the Bridge Street District CRA. As I articulated in our discussion 2 weeks ago, that any property owner that would request this kind of incentive would be required to work with the city to come forward with a request that would have to be vetted through council and ultimately approved by council. This action is simply setting the framework so that should a property owner want to take part in this type of incentive, that the groundwork is laid. Upcoming steps, we would be requesting second reading at your next meeting on May 4th. And at that point in time, we'll be requesting that council consider passing this as an emergency, which would allow us to 2 weeks later submit the application to the Ohio Development Services Agency for their consideration. They have then 30 days to review that and approve it, which would put their approval in mid to late June. Once that is approved by the Development Services Agency, the CRA agreements would then be able to be brought forward with any particular property owner for council consideration. And only after that approval would the exemption go into place. As I mentioned to you last week, the impact to Dublin City Schools at the end of the day results in no financial impact to them because of the pursuant to the agreement with the Dublin City School and City of Dublin Cooperative Agreement, whereby we pay them $1.5 million in a year in exchange for the ability to leverage this type of development incentive and others that we have discussed. That is all.
Very good. Council questions? Anybody? Mr. Herring? Very good, thank you. The second reading, public hearing will be May 4th.
Thank you.
With that, we move to staff comments. Dana?
Just one item I want to bring up. Some of you may have seen this, has to do with America's leading creative class cities, named for 2015. Others of you may bring this up at roundtable as well, but Dublin was ranked 13 out of the top 20 in the nation. I thought the most interesting thing to observe about that was that all the others were either clustered on the East Coast or the West Coast, and we were the only city probably between Washington, D.C., Maryland, and California and Washington in the United States. So if you have not seen this, I'll make sure to get this circulated.
The dispatch today?
No, this came out last week or week before, and it was Richard, Florida. You may recognize that name.
No, there was an editorial in the dispatch
Oh, was
this
there an
morning.
editorial in there? Oh, I missed that. I didn't see
it's-
that, yeah. Okay.
About Dublin.
Yeah, I was surprised to see it in the editorial page from the dispatch, but it was very well written and talked about the fact that we had some 65% of the number of creative people.
Great. Yep, correct.
In terms of the percentage of the employment base. And you're right, we were the only ones in the Midwest that really had that kind of rating versus East Coast, West Coast.
Or in the South.
Or in the South.
There's no southern cities.
Yep.
It's really strange because you read the list. It's Cupertino, California, Palo Alto, McLean, Virginia,
Silicon Valley, basically. So that speaks very highly of everything we've done here.
It's the home of Apple, and on it goes.
Yep.
Stanford University, and then for some godforsaken reason, we're right there is number 13.
Well,
And
might have
amongst
something-
all these fantastic, well, I
talk
know
about
who we
fiber-
are and I know what we built here, but
why we're-
I don't
Fiber
think
optic.
it's interesting that other people are finally acknowledging it, figuring it out. And I followed up on this Florida guy, and
He's well-known, well-regarded.
extremely well regarded, and some people say he's sort of an urban geek. His intellect is so high on this kind of thing that, so I'm really impressed. I mean, I don't know if people really understand what the creative work class really is, and you know what he's talking about. But it's amazing that
That's good stuff.
we're the only city in the entire central United States.
That's right. Thanks for raising it, Dana. What else do you have?
That's it.
That's
Nothing.
it? So we'll go to council committee reports. Planning and zoning. Ms. Saleh.
This Thursday, Planning Commission will engage in a training on, at 6 o'clock at the 5800 building, if anybody cares to attend. And then additionally, we're going to be spending some time debriefing after the APA conference, which was, of course, fabulous. Great learning opportunity. Seattle's absolutely the perfect place to have that conference this year for where we are with our development and our thoughts with regard to Bridge Street, and then certainly all the other interesting things that are going on in that part of the world. So thoroughly enjoyable time, and I think all of us came back very energized and very excited. And so we will have time to talk about our experience there, and that's happening this Thursday.
So you had, we had a couple, yourself and Mary Lee?
Yes.
From council, and then how many representatives from P&Z?
Four of us.
Terrific. Yeah, I'm sure they
Yeah.
enjoyed that and learned a lot as well. So
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick, Administrative Chair?
Yeah. I'm just proud to announce, Mr. Mayor, that the Administrative Committee is current with all of its assignments, and we're good.
Terrific. Good report. John, Community Development?
Same thing as Rick mentioned. We are current with everything going on, and the city's in good shape.
Mary Lee, Finance?
Nothing new, thank you.
Amy, Public Service?
We need to set a meeting, Ann, and if you could, Megan, after what date did we say you guys would be ready? Mid-May? Okay. So, Ann, if you could poll, I guess, Tim and John, to be prepared. Ann's going to be talking to you about scheduling a Public Service Committee meeting, maybe two. So.
Very good. All right. Let's see, John, DAC?
Just want to thank everybody. That was a really successful Dublin Arts Council garden party. I think it set a record for attendance. And just a great night was had by all, so we're looking forward to next year. I stopped by to try to get the revenues and see what they generated in their endeavor, but they hadn't calculated everything yet.
Looked to me like they did pretty good.
It was a huge crowd. The food was great, and there was plenty of it all the way through the whole
Yeah.
thing, so it was really well done.
It was very well done. Thank you. Greg, Board of Education? Thank you. Mary Lee Morpsey?
Yes, we had Morpsey Roundtable last week, and Representative Mike Curtin came to speak to us about the Constitution of the state of Ohio, which is going to under review. And he's quite a constitutional expert, so he went through the whole process about what you do and what's required by law and everything like that. And the review committee consists of Joanne Davidson, Fred Mills, Ched Riedler, Paula Brooks, Herb Asher, Governor Taft, and Charlita Treveris. So we'll stand a seat in months. It's not actually that long that they have. I forget what he said, but to process that review and make recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Roundtable. Greg?
Michael?
I'm
Go to
sorry.
US 33.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. And you had a meeting this afternoon.
We did.
Please,
We did. Thank
please
you.
report.
Dana and I attended, as well as our city engineer, Paul Hammersmith. I believe this information was shared with you in the last month. But the area of focus, we had this map, and this has not changed from what was shared with you previously. As I recall, we continued to have some discussion regarding this memorandum of agreement, which also was shared with you. Mill Creek and Township and Jerome Township want to review it a little bit further and offer some other suggestions, but the hope is that it's minor wordsmithing. And then we were on the agenda, the City of Dublin was, and Dana presented, excuse me, developments occurring, within the affected area. So that was about the extent of it. Dana? That's it. Thank you.
They should have been quite interested in the 33 closing coming up very soon, I would think.
Everybody noticed.
Everybody noticed, I'm sure.
Commented on the pre-construction stuff going on and traffic slowing somewhat already.
You can see it. It starts as early as 3:30 now.
Right.
So
Right.
very
Thank
good.
you.
Okay, now we'll go to round table. Sorry, Tim. Greg? Thank you.
Couldn't think of anything.
I got nothing. Amy?
I do not have anything. Thank you.
Marilee?
Sorry, I do. Fred, I brought you back these wonderful bicycle from Vancouver. I was able to go to the mobile workshop in Vancouver, and they handed out these bicycle route map and guides that I thought were terrific. I already mentioned this to Fred,
That might keep
before
him here,
he
Fred.
retires,
That might
this
keep
was
him
another
here.
little thing that he could do.
Don't leave us, Fred.
Yeah, sure. And I, like Amy, would say that one of the things that was terrific about going, I did mostly mobile workshops so that you could really, I'm a visual learner mostly, and so I can really see, and then they explain exactly what they are doing and how they built something out and all that. But the other thing that they did in the course of this conversation, as well as other workshops that I did attend, was they kind of reinforced, every speaker reinforced really what the future and the future generations are going to be and what they're looking for, and the nexus that's going to happen between the younger generation and those of us that are baby boomers, and how they're going to be looking for very similar kinds of housing, walkable neighborhoods, local retail, et cetera, easily available to them, and that no matter where you live, the people are wanting to get out of cars and be more physically mobile. So I thought the information continued to reinforce that we're on the right track and doing the right things. And while sorry that I didn't attend the workshop that the Dublin staff put on, as I went to something else during that time frame, everyone that I've talked to that attended it said they all did an excellent job. So that, of course, speaks volumes, as we would expect. Wanted to let people know for the Miracle League, they are in their 10th year, which is very exciting, and they will be having, there's a Miracle League fundraiser this Thursday night from 5 to 7 at Sunny Street Cafe, and that is for the new Special Olympics playground. So if you care to go to that, it's you can go on their website and sign up for what time you'd like to come and eat. And then on the 16th of May is actually the formal 10-year dedication of the league, and the ceremony will be about 2:30 out at the Dairy Fields. And then I wondered about the open container. While it hasn't passed the legislature totally yet, that I would like for that to be on our radar screen to watch it and to look at then a small committee or something that might be put together to address whatever gets passed and how that might impact Dublin, or what kind of policies or changes we might want to be recommending, if any. That's it. Thank you.
It's interesting you bring up the open container piece, because I talked to a representative from Hilliard who said that they were just under the number in terms of what they could do or couldn't do, and they felt like they were going to be selected against.
I know Worthington was.
35,000
Yeah, they
right
were
now
just
is
under.
the, oh, are they really?
Yeah, so anyway, that's just an aside, but, okay, Tim?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to hear about the Marilee and Amy's excitement at attending the APA meeting in Seattle. The first one that I ever attended about 17 or 18 years ago was in Seattle, and I came back pretty fired up. It was a great experience, and the mobile workshops, I don't know why, especially interesting there, but anyway, I think that's great, and great that staff went and that we had commissioners go. Together with several other council members attended the annual Hadaka Cherry Blossom luncheon Friday, April 17th. It was a beautiful day, well attended, lots of staff there, and much appreciated that Mr. Hadaka and his organization put that on for us. Very, very nice. And then also with other council members attended last Thursday's Homeowners Association meeting, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank Dana and all of staff that participated in that event. I don't recall one as well attended as that one. Of course, there was sort of the pre-meeting, I guess, where they were talking. It was sort of a charrette with respect to the new Riverside Park, and I'm sure that brought out people. But it was a great crowd. But I was really impressed by the staff participation. I mean, I understand you guys do it all the time, in terms of your evening commitments, certainly at council meetings and otherwise, but there was a great number of staff there, and I really appreciated their effort and their commitment, to the process and their presentations and so forth. I think it was well received, so thank you.
Well, thank you. I'll pass it along.
Very good. John?
Yeah, I was just, again, wondering if we can get it on the web so we can explain this to our residents. Again, this issue of America's leading creative class, when your city's rated with the home of Microsoft and these other places in a small town as we are, it's just amazing. So I would hope that maybe Sandra, could possibly get this on there, and I don't want to go through the whole explanation of what Mr. Florida said and does in rating these cities. It's very interesting. I think it'd be very interesting for our residents to find out what an amazing place this really is and the kind of caliber of people we have really living here. It's phenomenal. So if there's some way to get that on and get it out, it'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, it was especially nice to get a pat on the back from the Columbus Dispatch on that, too. So that was very nice.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
Editorial. Rick?
Yeah, just one thing. Dublin City Council will host a celebration of service of our board and commission members on May 5th. I hope everybody on council can attend. I'm preaching to the choir, but our board and commission members serve a lot of time with passion, a lot of dedication, and I think we ought to be there to thank them. So hopefully you guys can all make it.
Yep, it's on my calendar. Great. Just real quickly, I attended the Hadaka Cherry Blossom Appreciation Luncheon, and everything was in perfect bloom, and it was really a thank you to our staff in Dublin, as I understand one of the reasons for the event. But the Consul General was there, Dr. Katayama, and he spoke, and we had a really excellent day, and I want to thank them for that as well. Also, I attended the JASCO, Japan American Society Central Ohio, their 18th anniversary reception. It was held downtown at Vorey's offices. Mr. Al Kinzer, President of JASCO, spoke. Dr. Katayama, the Consul General, spoke. We also had, there was a representative, Mindy McLaughlin from Jobs Ohio, was there, as well as other assorted dignitaries. I believe there was a couple other representatives from Jobs Ohio as well. And then Akisa from the Executive Director of JASCO. So it was a very nice event, and I appreciated them inviting me and being there for that. And with that, we'll stand adjourned.